How do people look at Superman? How will we see him in the future? As historians and scholars evaluate this figure who has dominated the 20th century, when he's no longer with us, who will we think he was? This is the statement that opens 1984's Superman 400. In the comic, this statement is directed at a group of school students being asked to consider what they know of Superman and how they think Superman will be discussed in the future. In the real world, it's the methodology that works its way through this double-sized anniversary issue. Superman 400 released in October of 1984, promoting itself as an anniversary issue for the Superman title reaching a landmark 400th issue. This wasn't the only anniversary issue that DC printed. Others would include Detective Comics 627, Batman 400, and Action Comics 544. But it's Superman 400 and its lack of a reprint in the modern space that I want to draw attention to. It's my belief that Superman 400 is one of the greatest single Superman issues printed, and yet DC refuses to reprint it. I imagine a few people out there are going to say, but I've seen it listed in collections. How can you say that DC hasn't reprinted it? To explain that, I need to explain the format of Superman 400. Much like Action Comics 1000 and Amazing Fantasy 1000, the issue is separated into different chapters. However, while the stories that appear in Action Comics and Amazing Fantasy were done by different creative teams, the entirety of Superman 400 is written by Elliot S. Maggin, with a different artist taking on each chapter, and a final chapter written and drawn by Jim Steranko. While the chapters illustrated by Frank Miller and Jim Steranko have been reprinted, particularly in Superman's 75th anniversary collection and Superman's 85th anniversary collection, Superman 400 in its entirety has never been reprinted. While the two chapters that are readily available are good, it's when they're viewed as a whole that they take on a deeper meaning and reinforce the enduring myth of Superman. What I want to do by the end of this video is to either convince you to go out and find copies of Superman 400, or for maybe enough discussion to be in the discourse that maybe DC Comics considers printing it as a facsimile. At the end of the day, I just want people to be able to read this issue. Looking at this from 2026, I'd have imagined a marketing campaign similar to modern landmark issues. Batman and Superman World's Finest number 50 recently came out, and for a DC fangirl it was hard not to notice. There were many adverts for it in different comics, including the Superman-Spider-Man crossover, and many social media marketing campaigns. To be clear, this isn't an issue with a brand new creative team, or a group of different creators tackling different stories. It's still Mark Waid with returning artist Dan Mora, and an extended page count. Compared to pre-crisis publications, it's an oversized issue being praised because a modern comic book made it to 50 issues. This is not meant to be a negative statement towards World's Finest 50. I have my copy, it's in my current oversized reading stack, but I haven't read it yet. Given the team, I'm sure it's great, but I wanted to use it as a comparison with Superman 400. With Superman 400, we see no major fanfare. There was a limited poster sent to some comic book stores, but the only mention in the comics is a small comment at the bottom of the first story in Superman 399 and a quick reply in the letters page. Even the Meanwhile page in Superman 399, a page meant for promotional content, doesn't mention the anniversary issue, instead focusing on All-Star Squadron. You'd think with the amount of talent that will appear in Superman 400, this is an issue that DC would be heavily promoting. As stated, the issue is written by Elliot S. Maggin, with the final story being the sole exception, as it's written and illustrated by Jim Steranko. The overall theme of the issue is to celebrate the legacy and mythology of Superman, a character that was almost at its 50th anniversary. The first chapter, illustrated by Joe Orlando, sets the tone, showing portraits of figures such as Martin Luther King Jr., William Shakespeare, Joan of Arc, and Albert Einstein. The caption discusses the idea of people throughout history whose contributions are so great they can be identified from a single sentence. This goes into a classroom, with a teacher asking how the students would describe Superman under the same situation. From here, each of the chapters move forward in time and examine how people remember Superman. Chapter 2, illustrated by Al Williamson, takes place in 2199 on Armstrong City, based on the moon's Sea of Tranquility. An elder in the town, fittingly named Homer, tells the local children about Superman, explaining that as time went on, Superman seemed to appear less and less, until after a century he just seemed to disappear. The children ask excitedly if Homer ever saw Superman up close, to which Homer tells them about a time he was a naval pilot aboard the spacecraft carrier Bruce Wayne. When he's surrounded by meteorites, Homer describes the terror of being all alone, with even his radio being knocked out. Just as he thought he was about to die, a much older, white-bearded Superman breaks through the hull and rescues Homer from certain death. Homer comments that at the time he couldn't believe what he was seeing, noting that people had claimed Superman had died a long time ago. That while Superman was in a weakened state, possibly due to kryptonite, Homer felt that he, quote, saw a legend reborn and crumble again. Seeing Superman succumbing to poisoning, Homer takes a strange liquid out of Superman's pouch that allows Superman to overcome the kryptonite surrounding them. While it's revealed that Homer was telling the story as a way to sell his wares, his grandson reflects on the story as they travel between cities on the moon. Chapter 3, one of the few that is reprinted in collections, features the art of Frank Miller. The chapter is set as a television interview, which is rather fitting considering it's Frank Miller illustrating it. The piece shows Dr. Noah Mandel talking to the press about an asteroid that recently appeared. It's Mandel's opinion that the asteroid is actually a sort of time capsule sent from a parallel universe, that Mandel hopes that they can use this asteroid as a way of answering the mystery of Superman's secret identity. A reporter, Lois Olson, asks Mandel if he's aware that recent findings suggest that Morgan Edge was most likely Superman, to which Mandel replies by showing footage of Superman, namely, footage from the black and white George Reeves television series. Using this footage, Mandel posits that Superman was actually the reporter Clark Kent. Mandel explains that the footage he's showing is from an alternate universe, where Superman was a television show in the 1960s. Because of that, they believe that the basic plot of that series is their reality, and the real identity of Superman was Clark Kent. The chapter ends with reporters arguing over whether Superman was Morgan Edge, Bruce Wayne, or Clark Kent. Mandel knows that people are probably laughing at his theory, but, quote, "For in a world this brave and this new, can fantasy ever be far away?" Chapter 4, illustrated by Marshall Rogers and Terry Austin, takes place in 2499 and follows Conrad Glum, a homeless person on the streets of a dystopian metropolis. Conrad, looking for warmth and food, breaks into the old library building. He's at least glad to find some books to pass the time, before stumbling across a box containing what he thinks is a nice warm blanket. As the security officers investigate the old library, they discover Conrad wearing not a blanket, but a Superman costume. The officer shoots Conrad, but upon contact with the costume, Conrad remains unharmed. Escaping from the library, Conrad steps outside, repelling blasts from bullets as he runs. The people outside see him and exclaim how Superman had returned to save them all, and the legend has returned. The officers aim for Conrad's head, vaporizing him in a second, and the costume is all that remains. But it's enough to spur the other citizens into action, rebelling against the fascist government that has kept them oppressed. As the citizens lead the Second American Revolution, the captions read, "For on this day, some survived who had seen and were able to tell the story of how after all these centuries, Superman had returned to the city of Metropolis and would save us once again." Chapter 5, drawn by ElfQuest's Wendy Peeney, sees a group of students listening to a lecture about ancient relics. Their professor shows off the clothing of Superman. However, it's been so long since Superman has been seen that no one knows what Superman looked like. They don't know if they were male or female, if they were thin or muscular. Some even comment that this super person may have been a creation of the showman Morgan Edge. As the professors bicker about their differing views, the students finish the lecture and reflect upon the idea of Superman and what he could have stood for. Chapter 6, drawn by Michael Kaluta and Kelly Alder, shows two kids going to a futuristic-style cinema in which they take on the role of the characters within the story. In this case, they play a story called Last Son of Krypton. The boys take on the role of Superman and a young assistant as they take on robbers. The boys continue the story, taking turns to play the Man of Steel, and as the caption ends the story, so the adventure continues, across space and across time. An adventure in this case of a dark avenger of the night, who fights evil not with superpowers, but with a scientific device of a lost civilization, as lived through the minds of two enchanted young men lost in fantasy. So does the dream continue, and a new generation's vision of truth, justice, and the American way comes to pass. The message is clear that inspiration continues, especially through entertainment, that legends and messages will continue to inspire the next generation. The second to last chapter, illustrated by Klaus Janson, shows a family preparing for a holiday meal. The caption opens the chapter by stating that the myth and legend of Superman has passed from reverence to ritual in the 60th century. The mother and father are relieved to see their son landing their ship. The young man, Riley Bendix, steps out wearing a top hat reminiscent of Abraham Lincoln, an Eisenhower jacket for the heroes of D-Day, eyeglasses modelled on Woodrow Wilson, high-water boots of Kuhan Pai Jin, and finally a Superman shirt standing for the greatest of heroes who fought for truth, justice, and the American way. Riley's outfit stands for figures in history, but also harkens back to that first chapter of the issue. Only instead of sentences, the people are summed up with articles of clothing. The Bendix family settle down to eat their holiday feast by candlelight, when they suddenly hear a thud coming from outside. A time-displaced Superman has suddenly arrived outside of their home. After Superman calms down, he finds his way to the front door, collapsing as he enters. The family help him up, assuming he's a friend of Riley's, and try to use a healing device to help him. The device has no effect, but as they are debating what to do, Superman awakens. Riley hypothesizes that this might actually be Superman, informing him that he's in the year 5902. The young children at the table ask if he's a time traveler, before the mother offers Superman some food on this Miracle Monday. As Superman eats, he listens to the story of Miracle Monday. It is the story of a day when America was young, and a child who could change the course of mighty rivers came to Earth to exemplify all that America had and would come to stand for. Some of the story is accurate, some is clouded by the folds of myth and time, but like art and greatness, it is all true. And one day in the 21st century, the Man of Steel just disappeared. No one knows to where, so each year, hoping he will return, we set an extra place at dinner for Superman. As the meal comes to an end, Superman thanks the family, and Riley sees Superman out. Superman confirms that Riley does know who he is, and Riley offers for him to return on Miracle Monday if he ever needs a place to stay. The chapter ends with the note, "For every Miracle Monday after that, Riley's family set an extra place, as everyone else did. But every year, through Riley's old age, the food on Superman's dish mysteriously disappeared during dinner. Of course, everyone thought it was a trick, that Riley always teleported it away, but only Riley knew that sometimes legends live." The final story, the only other one to be reprinted, is written and illustrated by Jim Steranko. The story appears in a different format than the others, as the history of Earth and civilizations is shown after the disappearance of Superman, that over millions of years, men and supermen took to the stars, developing technologies and abilities that allowed them to do the unthinkable, that technology and threats beyond the stars would attempt to stifle humanity, but the Brotherhood of Superman spearheaded the cause of mankind, as Superman's legacy inspired those that came after, straight through history, until the day that Adam Kent finds his Eve. In addition to those beautiful stories, the issue is filled with gorgeous pin-up pieces by such amazing talent as Bill Sienkiewicz, Mobius, Mike Grell, Steve Ditko, Will Eisner, Bernie Wrightson, Walter Simonson, Leonard Starr, Jack Davis, John Byrne, Jack Kirby, and Brian Bolland, not to mention the cover by Howard Chaykin. Every inch of this issue is a testament to Superman's legacy and mythology. I originally heard about this issue from Marvel and DC Comics writer Philip Kennedy Johnson. He said that Superman number 400 inspired his own future state Superman Worlds of War, where people are continuously inspired by Superman's legacy far into the future, that the issue represented multiple visions of a future and how Superman played a part in so many different ways and aspects, that just like real-world figures, stories can contradict each other but still have meaning to the individuals. It's not just people commenting on the issue in retrospective. If we go to the letters page of Superman number 404, we see people giving nothing but praise for the issue.
Dear Julie and Bob, it began with a dream of a mighty, superhuman being who could do everything ordinary mortals could not. Leap 1/8 of a mile, hurdle a 20-story building, raise tremendous weights, run faster than any express train, a being so mighty that nothing less than a bursting shell could penetrate his skin. The dream grew and expanded upon until now, 46 years after he was first envisioned, in the minds of Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, the dream of Superman has become, in fact, a legend. Julie Schwartz and Elliot Maggin chose to celebrate that legend in Superman 400, and thanks to their efforts and the efforts of a variety of artists contributing to the issue, it was a worthy celebration. The thing that makes Superman such a special character in the hearts and minds of those who read his adventures is not merely that he possesses physical powers far surpassing those of men, but that he selflessly and unhesitatingly uses those powers for the benefit of all mankind. That's the true legend of Superman, and it's a legend that will live to inspire countless generations centuries after the man himself is dead and gone. My own favourite sequence in this issue was the one featuring Riley Bendix and his family celebrating Miracle Monday. In this future vision, we saw that despite all the trials and tribulations man has yet to suffer, he would finally create for himself a life free from crime, poverty and ignorance, a life where benevolence and charity are the rules rather than the exceptions. Ideals live only when enough people believe strongly in them, and as Superman himself thought on page 10 of this sequence, if this is where civilization is going, I'd say it was worth the wait. In an era conspicuously devoid of any real-life heroes, Superman shines brighter and is more sorely needed than ever before. He may be nothing more than a fictional character, at least on this Earth, but the concept in which he was born is a very real one. A concept which will live as long as there are those who dream of a person who symbolises all that is good and right in this world. I don't deny that in a very real sense, I need to believe in Superman, and I don't doubt there are lots of others who share that need. Thanks again for a celebration worthy of the legend.
Despite the praise, the beautiful story and the gorgeous art, with the exception of 2 chapters, the issue has never been reprinted, and that feels like a genuine misstep, especially in the age of digital distribution, collected editions, and even facsimile printings. I urge you, if this story sounds interesting, or you want to see some amazing 80s artwork, please try and track down a copy. Or better yet, maybe if there's enough noise, maybe DC can be convinced to reprint it as a facsimile. It's an issue I think deserves to be remembered and read again. As a facsimile, I think you get the best of both worlds, a modern printing with the material presented in a way true to its original release. A big thank you to Owen Likes Comics for lending their voices to the letters pages. Have you read Superman 400? What do you think? Let me know, and till next time.